And so I like to always start by just asking people, how is it that you came to choose Jesus?
Well, I was a young person and not growing up in any kind of, having any kind of sort of religious background at all. I just did what the world did, and my parents kind of, there's some moral foundation and other things. But my mom early on, she had, sort of left the scene. And then I lived with my dad for a little bit, my grandma, and that was a whole situation of fun times. And so I just became, this girl that just went around and did all the partying and all the things as you would do if you have no, sort of like moral compass or even supervision and all those things. And so by the time I was about 19 years old, I was over it. So I knew for sure that I didn't want to live in the lifestyle of my dad, in the sense of, drug addiction and just, loosely living their life for no purpose. And so I started searching for different things, different religions, different even clubs, and I had, growing up, I had gone to many churches. I've gone to Jehovah's Witness and Mormon, and, even the year before I got saved, my grandmother was dying of breast cancer, and I had to go to back to Oahu's where she lived, and my uncle lived there, and he's actually Buddhist, and he was trying to talk me into becoming a Buddhist, and I was like, okay, well, sure, let's try this out. Why not? And he had me like watch this movie thing and like was talking to me about it, and I just thought it was too weird. I was like, not even weird. I thought it was kind of silly too, like I thought it was kind of like bizarre. So I was kind of like, nah, not really feeling that. Well, prior to that, I had worked with, this gentleman at work with me who was very, very opinionated in how I lived my lifestyle. And, and so he, telling me, you're going to go to hell and, and kind of just said, what are you doing with your life? Do you know where you're going to go when you die? And, all these things. And I was like, I really don't care, And so it became this dialogue of curiosity on what like his, background was and where he's coming from. And he was a Christian, and I had known Christians before, obviously, many Christians, but they weren't real. They would say that they're Christian, and I've even gone to like a Christian church, and then we're out partying together or doing all these things together, and so I never took them serious. Yeah. I thought that you're at least with the Jehovah's Witness and the Mormon, at least they had like conviction. I felt like there was at least like, oh, we can't have Coke, or, or we don't celebrate a holiday or whatever. At least there was some sort of like a conviction with it, where I felt like with the Christians that I knew, there was zero conviction. And so I was like, so it was kind of like, if you don't take it seriously, I'm certainly not going to take it seriously. Yeah. And so when I met this guy, he took it very seriously. And so we kind of started this dialogue. And a long conversation about who Jesus was, and how he's represented on earth, and what it means to go to heaven, and all these different things. And of course, I had all of the questions to ask. What about dinosaurs and all those things. And so at the age of 19, I was completely curious and kept having that conversation and going back and forth. And one day I was in my apartment all by myself, and I called this gentleman, and I just said, I don't know what to do. I feel lost. I feel lonely. I just feel like, I don't want to repeat the cycle of my family. They're so broken.
Wow.
And so he said, well, do you want to say the prayer with me to accept Jesus into your heart? And I was like, I guess, let's try it. Let's see what works. And so over the phone, I, repeated the prayer, the sinner's prayer over the phone. And I asked Jesus into my heart. And for him to forgive me of all my sins. And instantly I felt that peace that passes all understanding.
Oh
And I
my.
knew at that moment that this is the real deal. Yeah.
Yes.
The real deal. And that it doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter what anyone else is pushing on me. Like, I experienced this by myself alone in my apartment because of a conversation. And so it just kind of just started from there. And it just sort of like, this became this, like, this desire to, chase after the one that essentially rescued me. Of course, like we say, our problems don't go away and we still have all the things that we have to walk through, but that joy and that peace, there's nothing that matches it. That it's such a supernatural gift to be able to have peace when you shouldn't have peace, to be able to have joy when it doesn't make any sense, And so that was very, very tangible. And so I just began that journey of just walking that out and trying to figure out what this looks like, and, pursuing him the best way I could, and just like reading all the things, in the Bible about Jesus. And I need to say, of course, the person that the individual that had, asked me if I wanted to accept Jesus was my husband, my husband today. So,
wow, I didn't even know that. Amazing.
No, yes.
Praise God.
Yes. So
how many people can say that their spouse led them to Christ even before you weren't even dating, right?
Well, we were kind of talking. So we were having a conversation and different things, and we, kind of maybe liked each other. And, I was in that season of where I just wanted somebody to just be like, this is what you need to do. I needed some direction. And although he was very, like, he was aggressive, like he's an evangelist, right? So
right.
He's not far from
boot around the bush.
Like, I was like, I needed, because I was very aggressive. So I needed someone to be like, this is what's going to take you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
And then for it to be actual and it to be real was like a whole thing. And so, that just led me on that path. And then, of course, we ended up dating, and then we shortly after got engaged and then got married.
Wow.
Just walked all of that out. And so it's been this incredible journey to be able to kind of, walk hand in hand with Jesus, and then raise kids in that, and to fully trust him in situations where I don't even know how to navigate, as somebody that doesn't have the Bible stories or I didn't even know any Christmas songs that had to do with Jesus.
Wow.
So, like, songs were like Frosty the Snowman or Up on the House or whatever, or like all of there was no, like, I had none of that. And I didn't even realize that I didn't have it until I learned what needed to learn it, And so we had gotten married, and shortly after I got pregnant on my honeymoon, I had my son Kyle, and we were learning at the same time. So as he would learn, Bible story, I'm learning Bible story. As he's learning Bible songs, even I'm learning. I've got that we sings in the car, and we're learning it together. And it was sort of like the walking out and kind of figuring out who Jesus is to me. And because I was always so aggressive with things in my life, I was like, nobody's going to tell me who he is. I always had to really navigate that for myself. And I think that was what really set my path apart, was that I needed to have that encounter with him always. I was always seeking him. I was never, one that was going to just listen to what everybody says. I was like, well, let me find out what it says. I want to go encounter him. I know that he's real. And so I always had that on the forefront of my mind, to be able to have access to Jesus in that way. So,
yeah.